Okay, we should check it.
Excuse me, this man should be arrested for war crimes. J.P. Morgan paid him off for the Iraq war. 3 months after we invaded Iraq, they held up the Iraq bank for $20 billion. He was then paid $6 million every year and still is from J.P. Morgan 6 months after he left office. The man is a war criminal.
I'm sorry for that, Mr. Blair, and I'd like to find out how this gentleman managed to access the court through what is supposed to be a secure corridor. And I'll have an investigation undertaken about that immediately. I apologise.
That's fine. Can I just say, actually, on the record, what he said about Iraq and J.P. Morgan is completely and totally untrue. I've never had a discussion with them about that, or any relationship between them and Iraq.
You should not feel... You're entitled to say what you want.
Yeah.
But you should not feel it necessary to answer somebody else's points.
No, I appreciate that, but what part of the difficulty actually with modern politics, and I'd say this not as a criticism of the media, is that my experience of the reporting of these events is that you can have 1,000 people in a room and someone gets up and shouts or throws something, that's the news. The other 999 might as well not have bothered turning up. But anyway, we're back in
March 1997. Right. The line in the diaries, though, Mr. Blair, it was fantastically irritating on one level that we had to go through these kinds of routines. But in an election looming, we'd be daft not to try it. I mean, was part of the irritation a sense that you were having to tack perhaps a little bit too close to the wind in a way in which you would not otherwise have been minded to do?
You know, throughout you will find references to a level of discomfort or, you know, feeling uncomfortable about the fact that you had to make this persuasion a big part of what you were doing. But no, I mean, I think we were on the right side of the line. And, you know, this was something where, on many areas of policy, you might have an issue with particular papers and particular ways. What I was always anxious to do, and by the way, towards the end, even more so than at the beginning, was to make sure that what we did was steer the right side of that line and never yield on the policy. So, you know, obviously, there'd be others to judge on this, but I was very careful all the way through. I was not going to change policy because of this media power, but I did have to manage them.
There's some evidence that after the election you wrote a personal note to Mr. Higgins, who of course was then editor of The Sun, saying, I quote, you really did make a difference. Do you remember doing that, Mr. Blair?
I don't specifically, but it's perfectly possible I did. And, you know, frankly, it did make a difference.
What, you feel it impacted on the scale of your majority, or what?
I mean, look, it's again, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this. You know, I thought it made a difference that the Financial Times supported us. You know, what was one of my things that I was trying to do? I was trying to move Labour to a position where it said, we are not going to give any special favours to trade unions. We're a pro-business party as well as supporting individual rights for workers. When the Financial Times, I think in '92 they didn't support the Labour Party, or maybe they did, I can't remember. Anyway, for me it was important to get them on board. So, again, in that way, I don't think there's anything wrong in that or surprising. If a major newspaper comes on side with you, particularly one that's been very hostile, it's going to make a difference. I don't think there's anything wrong in that, per se.